Hi, it's Deb from Deb's Days. Today I'm sharing the summary of the 5 weeks I spent this summer cruising the Royal Princess in Alaska. Before I get started, I publish new content frequently, so be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And check out the cruising resources section at debsdays.com. You'll find cruise tips, trip reports, ship and port specific information, and plenty of photos. The ship. Yes, the Royal Princess is large. We regularly got 2 miles in a day just by being on the ship. And you're right, it doesn't have a large promenade deck. But if you look at the deck plan, you'll find it does have a promenade deck. The access to the deck is hard to find, but the doors are there. Some are outside of crooners on the port side, outside facets on the starboard side, and outside the Vista Lounge on both the port and starboard side at the back of the ship. Find those doors and you'll be rewarded with seating. Seating that's usually empty. Teak loungers even, with lots of unimpeded views. I made a video where I show you how to find those somewhat secret doors. I've added a direct link in the description right below this video. In that link, you'll also be able to find an entire list of other links that I'm mentioning in today's video. The itinerary. We did our first 2 weeks on the Royal Princess in May as we headed northbound from Vancouver to Whittier. Ketchikan, Juneau, and Skagway were the port stops, with glacier cruising days in both Glacier Bay and College Fjord. Then once the ship made it to Whittier, we headed right back southbound, back down to Vancouver. Same port stops, same Glacier Bay, but on the southbound trip we picked up Hubbard Glacier instead of College Fjord. We disembarked the ship in Vancouver, went home, then came back to the Royal Princess in August. We started these next 3 weeks on the Royal Princess in Anchorage, sailed to Vancouver, back to Whittier, back again to Vancouver, for a total of 5 weeks on the Royal Princess. Interesting fact, did you know that Anchorage isn't technically the cruise port? You have to actually head 60 miles away to the tiny town of Whittier, Alaska. There are several ways to get to and from the cruise port, and a taxi is not one of them. You can find a video I made explaining the different transportation options at debsdays.com. One of the concerns popping up again and again about the Royal Princess in Alaska has to do with its size. Whereas the other ships leaving Vancouver are able to sail inside Vancouver Island, the Royal Princess has had to go outside the island all season. It's a bit of a bummer for people who like that more scenic view. We also encountered tidal issues because of the size. The ship is tall and it barely fits under the Lions Gate Bridge. At high tide, it can't even make it, so it's a waiting game, or a hurry up and go situation. We had a couple of our weeks where our Ketchikan visit was cut short so we could get back under the bridge in time. We also had one where we arrived in Ketchikan late. We had to leave Vancouver really late, like 1 a.m. late, to time it right. Important fact. Yes, Alaska is in the U.S., but you still cannot take fresh foods off the ship. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says so, and yes, coffee included. So don't do it. As we've been to these ports multiple times, we didn't do much in port but go grab some food. Most of the time we took crew members with us, but occasionally we'd go alone. In Ketchikan, our favorite place to go is the Arctic Bar on the waterfront for some drinks. When we get hungry enough, we call up Burger Queen, which is right across the street. They'll deliver their tasty burgers on over right to your table or your bar stool. One huge thing we noticed in Ketchikan between our early summer and late summer visits, and this is a good thing, is that the line getting back onto the ship had changed. In May, it was a huge, long line snaking back and forth, but by August, they were running up to 3 gangways, with no lines to be found. In Juneau, we typically stayed on the ship during this trip. I think it was the port where we noticed the changes in the weather the most. A couple weeks we had rain, one was foggy enough that we heard the Grand Princess from miles away as she was approaching Juneau, and then we also had a couple days that were just beautiful and sunny. In Skagway, we also had rain, sun, just depending on the week. When we were there in May, we were a bit worried about their walking path. They'd put in these metal containers for folks to walk through. Those painted plywood floors of the containers were big time slippery. Well, I'm happy to report by the end of the summer, they were just scuffed up a bit and not slippery at all. I was also able to notice they weren't just there for the heck of it. They were there to protect the passengers from the previous landslide that had made its way down the hill in that exact same spot. Like I said, some weeks we had rain, some weeks we had sun when we were in Skagway. We went out either way because we needed to hold to our same routine of sharing the best patty melt in the world at Sweet Tooth Cafe and then making a stop at Starfire to bring back Thai food for the crew. Interesting fact. Did you know the Alaska State Ferry pulls up to Skagway and not only unloads people, but vehicles? We saw gravel trucks, tankers, and even motorhomes coming on out. As I mentioned before, on the northbound voyages, we had both College Fjord and Glacier Bay. On the southbound voyages, we had Hubbard Glacier, where we dropped, and then picked up, passengers who took an excursion to get even closer to the glacier. And in Glacier Bay, don't forget, the rangers come on board and have a full schedule of activities for passengers to choose from. But the best part of any Glacier Bay day is when Marjorie Glacier calves. Just spectacular and awe-inspiring. Over the course of the 5 weeks, we found pretty smooth waters most of the time. It was during those smooth water times when we saw the most wildlife in the water. In the rough water times, no way. If you want to find out more about what to do in the ports of Alaska, check out my Cruising Alaska Resources section on DEB'sDays.com. The cabins, as in plural. We had 5 weeks on the ship and had 5 cabin changes. That's what happens when you book last minute. We had a couple weeks in an inside cabin. Now watch out if you wind up in one of those cabins holding 4 passengers. You're going to have a bunk bed protrusion to dodge every time you get into or out of bed. Our solution was to ask for the beds to be changed into twins. Presto changeo and no bumps on the head. We had 2 weeks in 2 different handicap-accessible balcony cabins. We didn't request that type of cabin, but it's another thing that happens when you book last minute. They put you wherever they have cabins available. There is a ramp for the balcony, which is great even for people like my hubby who has issues with steps and thresholds. The bathroom was also great for him with lots of grab bars and a shower with a seat that could be moved up or down. As many people ask about accessible cabins, I did a separate blog post about it, and again, you can find the link down below. One of the weeks we had a club class mini suite. We gave our complimentary wine to crew we knew and went to the club class dining room just a couple times. We'll be back in a club class mini again on the Royal next month, so I'll provide more information and more photos then. We could see the seawalk from both our balcony cabins and our mini suite, but only if you leaned out from the balcony a bit. That meant people of the seawalk could look down on us too. We found most people just walk the seawalk or just stand there for a bit. Never did we see people just staring down at us for an extended period of time. The passengers. Each week, more than 2,000 of the passengers were first-time cruisers. First-timers are a ball of excitement with a dash of trepidation mixed in. I was lucky enough to be able to interview some first-time cruisers about their experience on their first cruise on the Royal Princess. You can listen to that interview on DEB'sDays.com. Again, that link's below. Interesting fact about me. Did you know I'm the author of Cruising with Confidence, How to Be a First-Time Cruiser Without Looking Like One? It can be found exclusively on Amazon in both paperback and as an ebook. We also had passengers with thousands of days at sea with Princess. Some of the same people who were on in May were still on the ship in September. While we don't have thousands of days, my husband and I both celebrated our 500th day with Princess on 2 different cruises. We each got flowers, champagne and chocolate-covered strawberries, and treats delivered to our cabin every day during our milestone cruises. We even got front row seats at the Captain's Circle party for those 2 weeks. Ship activities. I posted all the Princess patters from the first 2 weeks. Again, find them in the link down below. As we've been on way too many Princess cruises, we don't attend many of the activities anymore. I did enjoy the puppies coming on board in Skagway, but those little guys are just too pooped out to play. Another thing I enjoyed was watching cruise director extraordinaire Matt O film the wake show. I just happened to be walking by Princess Live one day and found the doors open. And boy, what energy. He also read my encouraging words every day. Some of the words even popped up on his Instagram account this week. I've added links to the wake show featuring the project and his Instagram account in that link down below. And since I don't cruise with kids, I don't know anything about the Kids Club on Princess Cruises, but I got the chance to interview 11-year-old Emily who was on her first cruise. She attended the Kids Club and told me all about the experience. The link to part 1 and part 2 of her interview is down below. Food and drink. If you haven't been on the Royal Princess before and haven't seen their buffet, you might be surprised. If you sailed some of the other princess ships, you'll find the choices somewhat limited and the buffet somewhat small. Not so on the Royal Princess. They have multiple lines and plenty of room for people to move around. They even have a map now to help you try and navigate your way around the buffet. Although, after spending some time with a map, I'm not sure it really helped me a lot. Here's an insider tip for you. The buffet can be super crowded during breakfast. Don't sit there inside with everyone else. Head to the back of the ship to the Horizon Terrace. Zip up your coat, tuck yourself along one of those walls, and enjoy the peace and quiet. Some days it was even warm enough to shed our jackets, and this was in Alaska. For salad lovers, you're going to be in salad heaven. There are multiple choices of items to put onto your salad, and the fruits are just as abundant. Every afternoon they have a taco bar, and every evening they have some type of a theme night for dinner. We saw a French night, Italian night, Bavarian night. Brazilian night was my absolute favorite. Now, I'm not sure what makes these Brazilian quesadillas, but they're probably my favorite item of all. The buffet also had a sushi day. Now, I don't eat sushi. I don't know what any of these things are that I'm looking at, but they sure looked pretty, and it seemed pretty popular. The last couple weeks we were on the ship, we noticed they're starting to shift some of their food items in the buffet to resemble more of what you might find on the Caribbean Princess, like the little individual salads. We also found that happening at International Cafe. In the past, they would pile your plate with a salad. Now it's already in cups ready to go. They've also changed out some of their sandwiches to be a lot meatier than they used to be. And of course, their desserts. And of course, we can't talk about the Royal Princess without talking about the coffee. Fresh ground. One of the other free options that we used quite a bit was Alfredo's Pizza. I've got the menu down in that link below again. But you're not limited to the menu. If they have the ingredients for the pizza you want, they'll make it for you. We always go with pepperoni, lots of garlic, and extra cheese. We also did some specialty dining this time. One place we'd never been before was Sabatini's. We wound up choosing Sabatini's as our embarkation day dinner because we had the coupon book in our cabin for the buy one, get one free. On embarkation day, we found Sabatini's to be relatively empty. I think we went there maybe 4 times in the 5 weeks we were on board and pretty much ate our way through the menu. We never had a bad meal. Actually, they were all great meals, all great dishes, and great service. I do have links to the menu and more pictures at DEB'S Days, again at that link down below. We also tried out another specialty dining option, the Crown Grill. We'd given up on the Crown Grill a couple years ago because we weren't happy with the quality of service or food. Well, I'm glad we gave it another shot. We ate here twice. Everything we had was mighty tasty. Don't forget to get that special dessert that's the sampler platter. In terms of drinks, we spent most of our time in crooners as that's where we had more crew members we knew working. I do have the menu, again, clicking on that link down below. But probably the best place to be drinking any drinks is sitting on your balcony as your ship's cruising Glacier Bay. Can't beat that one. Other things. One of the great things I've noticed the Royal Princess has done is really stepped up their signage. Now, there are already these touchscreen portals around the ship because the Royal Princess is a Medallion-class ship, but they're making good use of them as well. When coming off the elevators, we have directions to the dining room or the theater. That Allegro dining room's always a hard one to find because it's all the way at the back of the ship, so glad to see they have signage there for that. Some of the portals are Journey View portals. These are touchscreen portals where you can view the activities happening around the ship for the entire voyage. You can scroll across from day to day or up and down to find what's happening at that time of day. Before muster drill, the portals are converted to a directory. The buffet had that map for the different stations. And just a few days before we left the ship, the Suite and Elite guest line at the passenger services desk received some new signage. Speaking of suite guests, a couple months ago, I did a video on the concierge lounge. Well, they had a new development for full suite passengers since our last visit. The concierge lounge now has a cocktail hour from 5 to 7 each evening, and drinks, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, are free. While it's not a full bar, the bartender does have several bottles to choose from. Now remember, this is only for full suite guests and currently only on the Royal Princess in the concierge lounge between 5 and 7 in the evenings. And one more thing about the Royal Princess in Alaska. Starting in 2021, she's not going to be the only Princess Cruises Royal Class ship. The Regal Princess will be joining her in Alaska as well. Yep. According to Captain Nick Nash, both the Royal Princess and Regal Princess will be sailing Alaska starting in 2021. One ship will be based out of Vancouver, one out of Seattle. He said they're still working on the decision of who gets where. If I've missed anything, or if you have any questions about cruising Alaska or Princess Cruises or cruising in general, just ask. Or if you want some help planning your own cruise, go ahead and contact me using the Contact Me tab at debsdays.com. Right, see you next time.